Hello, everybody, and welcome to Calls. This is the 2022 RSM Initial Research Show. For those of you who don't follow the PGA Tour closely or are just checking in, this is the last event of the calendar year for FedEx Cup points. There are two more events in the following weeks, the Hero World Challenge and the QBE Shootout. I do not know if I'm going to be doing any sports betting or DraftKings for those events. I'll just have to see. So this very well may be the last event for the calendar year, but that doesn't mean the content will end on this channel. A lot of exciting stuff coming up. At the beginning of the year, starting at the Century Tournament of Champions, I'm going to do a kind of a listeners league or a listeners contest every week, as well as start to provide my own tournament fact sheet, if you will, my favorite bets and values, DFS lineups and plays and such. So you're not going to want to miss out on that. So make sure you reach out to me in the email in the description below. That way you're added to the distribution list for that bonus content. And then also in the description, my social media is the links to those are in the description as well. That's where I post all my betting cards and kind of interesting info as I'm researching throughout the week. You know, on Thursday, at the Houston with the torrential downpour of rain, that's where I updated that the ball was in hand. So I had some statistics to provide there. So again, exciting stuff coming up. You're going to want to make sure you subscribe to the channel, reach out to me, social media, email. Make sure you're in contact for the bonus content. Chat's open tonight as it always is. Let me know how you did this weekend. Mine was pretty bad. I hit a couple of small wagers, but nothing to offset the utter disaster that the DFS portion of my weekend was. It was face-palmingly bad. So hopefully you all did better than I did. And jump in chat. Let me know how you did. Would love to hear about it. As always, to wrap up this intro, all statistics are provided by FantasyNational.com. Amazing resource. It would have allowed me to do very well had I chosen the right lineup. But it has all the tools for you to do it, and that way you don't have to listen to a moron like me. You can generate your own lineups, choose the right ones, and win lots of money. So with that all out of the way, let's dig into our initial research for the 2022 RSM. And we're going to start, as we always do, transition over here. This is the kind of the opening page that I like to bring up for the initial research show. It's Fantasy National. I go ahead and filter for the last 6 months, 36 rounds. That's usually kind of my default go-to. And this just came up right before I went live, so I actually have no idea any of the numbers, the people in the field. So this is going to be, I'm going to be finding this out with you as we go through this show. I like to start with just kind of seeing in a strokes gained total. This generally gives, some of the hottest players or the best players that are in the field, gives you an idea, or at least it gives me an idea of who's scheduled to play in the event, the relative strength of the field and such. So you see here in the last 36 rounds, the top 5 in strokes gained total are Louis, Seamus Power, Harris English, Taylor Gooch, and Adam Scott. Then followed by Cameron Smith, Johnny Vegas, Mito Pereira, Webb Simpson, and Patrick Rogers. So a pretty strong field, especially for the last FedEx Cup points event of the calendar year. So a lot of just good players here. None of the huge names, DJ, Rom, Justin Thomas, anything like that. But Louis, absolutely no slouch considering his record in the majors this past year. Cameron Smith coming off a pretty good Houston Open. Adam Scott the same except for his Sunday. Seamus has been playing well. minus this past week where he just bombed at the Houston. Harris English, Alex Norn's been playing well. Webb. So again, like I said, a good field here at the RSM. We are in Simons Island, Georgia. And I think that's a pretty good transition to bring up the tournament fact sheet. This is from last year. This year's is not out yet, but same course, same setup as far as I know. This tournament has been played here at Sea Island Resort for as long as I can remember, at least back to 2014 or so. It's a par 70, pretty short at 7,000, just over 7,000 yards. The biggest takeaway is there is no doubt this is fast. It is very, very fast. Fast Bermuda greens. So when you see 12.5 on the stimp, that's pretty darn fast. I don't think it's quite lightning, but 13.3 is. Green size, about the size we had in Houston, just a bit larger. And those greens were pretty large, as you probably saw. So 7,200 square feet here. Very few bunkers, relatively speaking, to the PGA Tour. Only 47 here, but the biggest difference, there are 13 holes with water in play. So it's going to be imperative that your approach shots are dialed in. You're going to miss in the right spots. You're hitting your drive where you need to. There's not a lot of miss on this course. It's short, but there's not a lot of miss. Like I said, the greens are Bermuda, cut very, very, very short. You've got Bermuda rough like we had in Houston, so it can be sticky. It can grab on you. You saw how important around the green play was. You had a lot of people that were putting from off the green and long putting away, off the green. So around the green play will definitely be in play. This course is originally a Harry Colt and Charles Allison design, redesigned by Tom Fazio right before the turn of the century. So the other interesting fact about this tournament is that it is played on two courses. The Seaside course is the main course. That's the one that'll be played 3 of the 4 days. So Thursday and Friday, you switch between the Seaside course and the Plantation course. Now, the Plantation course is short. It's a little bit longer than the Seaside, but it's short because it's a par 72. It's not quite as fast on the stimp, but it is still fast. Greens aren't as large, but the prevailing things are still in play here. Fast Bermuda greens, lots of water in play. I am basically going to focus on the Seaside course just because that's where 3 of the 4 rounds are played. If we need to look at the Plantation course, then we will, but I don't think it's going to be a major factor, especially with 3 of the 4 rounds being played here. Kind of a difference from that would be something once we look at the Waste Management or Pebble Beach. Those courses use 3 in their rotunda, and it's a 54-hole cut, whereas this is a regular 36-hole cut, and then we move to the weekend all on the Seaside. Think of this actually as Torrey Pines, where players will play Torrey Pines North and Torrey Pines South, and then the weekend's entirely on Torrey Pines South. What tournament is that? I should know it, and it's escaping me right now, and that's going to drive me nuts. But anyway, so we're here at Sea Island Resort, Simons Island, Georgia, Seaside course. This is right on the Atlantic Ocean, and there is a straight comparison course that I'd like to show you as we move along in the week that I think will be a good indicator of what plays well here. So I want you to remember par 70, short, large greens, Bermuda. So fast Bermuda, short par 70s on the coast. The first tournament that comes to my mind is the Sony Open in Waialae. Now this is the 2021 Waialae, so it's this previous year's. You've got a par 70. This says unofficial, but again, 7,005 at where we are this week at Sea Island. This is only 7,044, so very, very comparable yardage. Green size this week is 7,200. At Waialae, for the Sony Open, it's 7,100. So 7,200 here, 7,100 at Waialae. You don't have as much water in play on Waialae, but you are on fast Bermuda. So this is a pretty strong comparison course, if not, a direct correlation, at least in terms of condition of play. Generally, the Sony has a little bit of wind. In the past, the RSM has had a little bit of wind. So I think as we move on through the week, especially in the Data Dive show, when we look at the DFS Tactics on Wednesday, we're going to want to see who plays well at Waialae for the Sony. That is probably going to be a good indicator of who performs well here as well. So there's the tournament fact sheet. Let's go ahead and move to the course breakdown on Fantasy National. Again, we're only going to focus on the Seaside Resort, or Seaside course on the resort. There is the Plantation. As you can see, there's a couple of different ones. But again, we're just going to focus on the Seaside. Seaside being a par 70, it's pretty darn easy. The hardest hole on the course is only a 10th over par. It's the signature hole, the 13th, plays to about even, and it's roughly, even as far as difficulty of the course. You notice that there's not a lot of eagles with the exception of this par 5 here. So it's just a lot of birdies. Lots and lots and lots of birdies. And then this par 5 yields eagles and birdies. It's just an easy hole. So don't think we're going to want to focus on eagles so much. But we're definitely going to want to see birdies are better on easy courses. Opportunities gained perhaps on easy courses, and so on and so forth. Again, third hardest hole on the course, second hardest, they play to about a 10th over par. The sixth hardest is right at even par. So again, not a very difficult course. Not a very difficult course. Just like this past week at Memorial Park in Houston, putting is going to be so extremely important on these fast Bermuda greens. We saw that come to fruition a little bit. Jason Kokrak was pretty darn pure on the greens, especially on Sunday. Kevin Tway was doing all right. I haven't checked the stats from his final round 4. But someone like Russell Henley, who I had a win bet on, he just did not putt well on Sunday. That's why he fell down the leaderboard. Martin Traynor certainly didn't have his best putting day. He couldn't close the deal. So just like this past weekend, putting is going to be so very important. Approach second. And then this is flipped from Houston. Off the tees third, around the greens fourth. But having seen how Memorial Park, the Houston Open, played, I might put a little bit more emphasis on this, especially with that sticky Bermuda rough, and how some guys were putting, some guys were chipping, and the guys that were able to chip well were generally doing a lot better. If we kind of shrink this down, top 5, more of the same, putting becomes more important. The winners in the past, all putting. And then short game kind of rises as well for the winners. So we're definitely going to be looking at putting this week again. Strokes gained by hole by par 5s, par 4s, and then the par 3s, kind of a normal distribution. However, they're all pretty darn close to each other. So this says that even though the par fives might be the most important, it's not such an astronomical difference that we have to put a lot of emphasis into it. Now, certainly we're going to dig into it, see what has played well here the past few years, but based on this graph, it looks like it's a pretty even distribution. This is what I was most intrigued by going through and kind of looking at this firsthand. 9 of the 9 of the 13 par 4s fall between 400 and 450. So we're going to see if that has any correlation at all to who comes up on high on the leaderboards. That's a lot. Like I said, 9 of the 13. So you got one really, really short. I don't think it's drivable. That actually reminds me that this is kind of a club down off the tee course, a lot like Waialae. You can get aggressive off the tee, but you bring a whole lot of trouble into play. So a lot of times, guys will just kind of hit fairway metal or even iron off the tee, put themselves in position because it's not a long course. Even when they do that, they still have a wedge or 9-iron in their hand. So distance is not very important here at all. It's about positioning and wedge play. As you can see, 125 to 150, 150, 175. There's very little, very, very little long iron play here at Sea Island. Both par 5s are of the same length. The par 3s are split between 175, 200, and 200, 225. But this was what captivated me. We're definitely going to dig into this, see if there's a strong indicator here or if it's just part of the course. Something that will lend itself to showing that it is an easy course. It started out as an okay. So there you go. It's 2010. Sorry, this jumping around here a little bit in my mind. Course has hosted this event at least since 2010. It goes back to 2010 here. It kind of it started off fairly innocuous, maybe about average, and then jumped to -4, -5, -6. This is a very, very easy course. Cut line at -5 is extremely low for the PGA Tour. So guys are going to be going low. So if you're scrambling for pars, you're losing ground to the field. And you can see that here, basically 20% birdies, 12.5% bogeys, and not a lot of doubles either. A very easy course. As I was alluding to, being a club down course, driving accuracy, very high, at least in relation to the average tour event. Speaking to that, distance a lot lower than the average tour event. It is a club down course. It is what it is. Green and regulation percentage is higher here. Makes sense because of the large greens. Scrambling's a little bit less than the tour average, but not much. 3 putts per round is a little higher than the tour average, but not much. Proximity, even though these are bigger greens, it's a lot closer here due to the easiness of the course and the fact that it's very, very short. I mean, guys just have wedges in their hands most of the day here. So the big takeaway is proximity, I think. I could see where some wedge distances might be a focal point. I definitely want to see where this, indicator comes into play. And then a lot of putting. I had Pro Visualizer up. I don't think I'm going to go through that. It was just going to be a way for me to quickly show you how the forced layups are. It kind of is what it is. You can take a quick gainer there. You see a lot of dog legs here. Something like 8, 2, 4, 5. Like I said, these are all kind of forced layup, irons off the tee for position. If somebody wants to try to take on the water, they can try to drive to here, but there's really no point when you're only gaining maybe 40 yards and you're bringing a whole lot more trouble into play. So, like I said, it's just a club down off the tee course and be dialed in with your wedges. The historic conditions here at Sea Island. Last year, and again, remember, these are 3 of the 4 at Sea Island, and then you have the 1 round at the plantation. Get off of there. 1 round at the plantation. The past year, I guess all of last year, 1-1-2-2. Sorry, that's been throwing me off. 1-1 and 2-2. All of it last year was lightning. All of it was short rough. They did have quite a bit of wind pick up in the during the week. I looked a little bit earlier today. It looks like it's going to be moderate. Doesn't seem like anything drastic as far as wind. Maybe 12 to 15 mile an hour sustained, which would be moderate. So as the week continues on, we might want to see if the wind picks up. We might want to see who plays well in windy conditions, especially since this is a coastal course. I could see where wind might be a factor for some players. But overall, what we're looking here, lightning speed of greens. Lightning was the first. Last year was kind of the first year they played lightning, but it certainly is fast. Fast to lightning. We're obviously on Bermuda. Certainly more easy than difficult. You had the plantation course play difficult last year. I'm pretty sure it's due to this, just the windy, because even the seaside course played to average in the windy condition. And again, in 2020, it was the seaside that played difficult. For some reason, I don't see it straight off of here. Why? But that's what we're going to be looking at. Bermuda, easy, short. Looking at the leaderboard, at least from last year, and we'll go through a couple years here just to kind of get a gauge for what we're looking at. The winning score was -19, so not as high, or rather not as low, I guess, as you would think if the cut is at -5. So it got a little bit tougher over the weekend. But Robert Shreb's your winner at -19. He beat Kevin Kisner in a playoff. Tringali solo third. Landry, Vern Wiesberger, Kyle Stanley, Villegas, Zach Johnson, Corey Connors. These are not guys with a lot of length. These are guys that are precision type players, wedge type players, guys that can definitely roll the rock, who can get hot with the putter, minus Keegan. Keegan's kind of the outlier here. But yeah, Corey Connors isn't a great putter by any means, but he is so good with his irons it kind of makes up for it. Neesmith's kind of the same way. He had a very good Sunday at Houston, thanks to in a large part to his irons. So those are the kind of general players that seem to be doing well here. Let's take a look at some strokes gained data here. And this is again from last year. We'll do more so 2020, 2019, really get a gauge in the data dive show tomorrow. But off the tee, yeah, it's kind of what I thought. Not a lot of correlation here. You've got some high finishes, but some very middlings as well. So nothing strong there. Approach, a little bit more. You certainly still have your pretty mediocre rounds, but a lot of higher and a lot more of the higher finishes here. Round the green, none whatsoever, at least from last year. 3 missed cuts in the top 7. In 2 of these are pretty middling. But putting, quite high. And it's not as high as I thought it would be, to be honest. Kuchar and Todd are, 37's middling results to be best. 37th missed cut. So it's not as high as I thought it would be, at least in a strokes gained perspective. Looking at fairways and greens, as you can see, distance doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. I mean, yeah. 63rd, 44th, 37th, miscut. Miscuts. Yeah, not at all. Fairways, not really. Stewart, Todd. Now, Kisner hit a lot of his fairways, but he has to in order to compete because he doesn't have the length. And he's generally not the best putter. He's okay, but he's generally not the best putter. I mean, you can see he's just kind of tour average. Oh, shoot, that's sand saves. I'm sorry. Let's bring back Kevin Kisner here. I don't think he's been generally the best putter. At least not lately, he hasn't. He can be, but you can see why he's been struggling lately. The irons just haven't been good. Off the tee has never been his strength. The putting has let him down. He's just not in good form. He did win the Wyndham this past year, but he had a very solid week, and then the form leading up to that and after that has been atrocious. So yeah, Kisner has to hit fairways if he's going to compete. But yeah, I mean, even the fairways, you've got a lot of middling results here. Yeah, nothing there. Good drives. Not a lot there. Greens, a little bit more, but still. Nothing there. Sand saves, nope. So of the first two full strokes gained data, we haven't seen anything that would constitute a strong correlation. Birdies, I mean, again, being an easy course, you're going to have a lot of birdies anyway. The miscut here I can kind of explain. He was very bad at double bogeys and very bad at bogeys. But again, it's the metric I like to use. Birdies are better on easy courses. So, Kazire was very good at his birdies. I think he might have led the field, to be honest. Yeah, he led the field in birdies, but he was not great at avoiding bogeys. Same with Doug Gim. Bradley didn't make a lot of birdies, but avoided his bogeys. So I'm going to use the birdies are better on easy. But there's a look at that. Par threes. Let's see what we got here. Now there's some pretty strong correlation here. 6th, 10th, and 23rd. You had Pat Perez, who missed the cut, played the par threes very well. So I imagine his par fours or par fives were bad. But their winner, 4th, 6th, 12th, 12th, 18th. Yeah. So this is a decently strong correlation here. The short-ish par threes. Remember, these are probably the Plantation because the 4 par threes fall into this range on the Seaside course. So of the 150 to 175, a little bit. But you got a lot of miscuts high up here. Let's look at the Seaside stuff. 23rd, 6th, 12th. It's not really this range by any means. Not at least in the high part of the leaderboard. About the next range, no. Minus these two, maybe a little bit. I mean, Jane, you can kind of understand with the par threes. He was really bad here, but he was good at this range. Pat Perez was good all the way around on the par threes, but he must have struggled somewhere else. So maybe this is a little bit of a stronger indicator. We'll have to take a note of that. 200 to 225 might be interesting. Even though it doesn't look like it, there could be stories around this. Like that explains this, honestly, to a T. I bet you there's something going on with Pat Perez there. So we'll have to see if 200 to 225 is something. Let's look at the par fours. And again, this is only 2021. We'll definitely look at 2020, 2019 tomorrow in the data dive. Strokes gained par 4. There we go. Look at this. My goodness. Other than Chesson Hadley, 4, 8, 12. 12 of the 13 top strokes gained par 4 players finished inside the top 20, and the one that didn't was a top 25. So the top 13 strokes gained par 4 players were inside the top 25. Then you had Webb, who was fairly middling, still had another top 20, and a lot more good finishes right here. Yeah, strokes gained par 4. Hello. There's something for you. This is the range that I'm most curious about. Seaside does have one shorter par 4. Looks somewhat okay. You had a couple of bad miscuts here, miscuts there. But let's see if this one is it. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're going to focus on this range. Absolutely. Look at this. You had Neiman at 44th and Kuchar at 37th. But, I mean, there's 20 people here that are inside the top 30, minus these two. So, yeah. That is a very, very strong correlation. Sorry, I'm getting notifications there in the bottom. Strong correlation here, yeah. I like this a lot. So we're definitely going to look at par 4s, and especially the par 4s 400 to 450, which just speaks to this heavily. So if guys are able to play this, range of par 4, this length of par 4 well, they're going to be setting themselves up very well on the Seaside course. So very good. Let's see if anything on the long par 4s or longer par 4s for this course. No, not really. Not really. Strokes gained par 4. I kind of wanted to see yeah, there you go. So Pat Perez played the par 3s really well. He did not play the par 4s well at all. And especially the length that is so very important. He didn't play them very well at all. So maybe the par 3s are a little bit telling. I'm curious of where Zhang is as well. Zhang was okay, but again was bad on the length of the par 4s that mattered the most. Okay, so that's good to know. So par 3s could have a little bit, but certainly not near as much as the par 4s and not near as much as this one here. And then par 5s, somewhat. Certainly not as strong as par 4s. About as much as the par 3s, maybe. Maybe a little less. Yeah, maybe a little less. Again, we just saw why Pat Perez missed the cut. He played the par 3s well, did not play the par 4s well at all. So the 3s, to me, at least at first glance, look like they're a bit more important than the par 5s. Let's see. Can't remember the breakdown here. You have 2 at the 550 to 600. Okay. So let's first look at the shorter ones in case they move them up. No, nothing strong here. 3 missed cuts. 57th to 50th. Nope. Here's the range that the 2 on the Seaside course play at. A little stronger. 44th, 37th. Missed cut. Bo Hostler both times. It's a little stronger. And then I'm imagining most of these par 5s are on the Plantation, but there's nothing here. I mean, you had 3 very high finishes, miscuts, middlings, miscuts. Nothing there. Very good. So par 4s and then 400s and 450s. Very, very important. Proximity. Be interesting to see proximity here. Total proximity. Not really the strongest, as much as you would think. 50th there. 50th and 54th. Miscut at Russell Knox. Not the strongest by any means. Yeah, not the strongest by any means. How about the real short ones? Real short. Ooh, there's a little bit here. David Hearn, not good. Kuchar, Lashley. A little less than at first glance because I saw 2nd, 6th, 18th, and 1st, 4th. I got excited, but it's kind of kind of scattered in that range. You don't have a strong correlation. You just have good and bad results. Sorry, I'm going to jump back to the breakdown. Looks like the majority is 125 to 175. A little bit in the 100 to 125. So let's see. 100, 125. Meh. 4th, 18th, and then a lot of middling results here. Next two are where it's, the majority of the approach shots come from. So let's see if that is a big factor. No. Not at the top. 37th and a 50th. Miscut here. Bad results there. Sorry. Bad results there. Huh. So no. 125 to 150 isn't it. 150 to 175. Little bit stronger. You still have a 44th here. And you have a 54th here. But you can see the high finishes sandwiched in between. So if there's a range to focus on, it looks like we're going to focus on this one. I don't know if we're going to single it out. It'll be interesting to see what 2020 and 2019's especially look like. But if there's a range, it looks like it's the 150 to 175. But even then, it's not so strong that I want to isolate it. And then if guys are leaving themselves quite a long way in, meh, not really. 200 plus, not really. It's actually stronger than I thought it would be, but it's still not strong. So maybe 150 to 175, but even so, the total proximity wasn't the strongest. I mean, you had a 50th, 54th, and a miscut here. 2 miscuts there. So, yeah. Let's look at putting. Strokes gained, putting. Again, we saw this. It wasn't as strong as I thought it was going to be on the kind of the overview. You had 37th and 37th. Another 37th, a miscut, 54th. So, I mean, you do have some high finishes here, but it's not, it's certainly not the extreme correlation that Houston was by any means, nor is it the extreme correlation that you would think that the graph would give you. So, putting will be important, but certainly not to the 20% that I put on the mixed condition model this past week. And honestly, probably should have put it 25. 0 to 5 feet, meh. Nothing here. I mean, these guys were good, but 5 to 10, not really. 10 to 15, nope, not at all. Not at all, really. 15 to 20, nope. 20 to 25, not really. 25 feet, nope. So it's just putting. All right, good stuff to look at there. Let's see. We're gonna come back to just the overall strokes gained. Let's, as we do all the time, as we start to wrap up the initial research show, let's look at the players in the field. We're going to look at top putting on Bermuda, Fast and Lightning. Top 10 on Fast Bermuda Lightning, or Fast and Lightning Bermuda Greens. Easy enough for me to say. Top 10: Brandon Grace, Denny McCarthy, Chesson Hadley, Justin Rose, and Harry Higgs are your top 5. The bottom half of the top 10: Nick Watney, Nate Lashley, Trey Mullinex, Adam Long, and Cameron Young. Very important to note that there's not a lot of rounds here. I've filtered it on the last 6 months. Let's bring that out to the last 12. A little bit of overlap here. So the top 10 in the past calendar year as opposed to the last 6 months. Last calendar year on Fast and Lightning Bermuda Greens. Denny McCarthy and Zach Johnson are tied for number 1. Cameron Smith, Brendan Todd, and Chesson Hadley round out the top 5. So there's some overlap here. Denny McCarthy, Chesson Hadley. The bottom half of the top 10: Brandon Grace, Louis Oosthuizen, JT Poston, Brian Harmon, and Mackenzie Hughes. So a lot of difference there in the bottom half of the top 10. Now, Kazire, Cameron Young are lurking just outside the top 10. Okay. Interesting stuff there. And then I think one of the last things I want to do, I certainly want to look at the par 4s, 400 to 450. We're going to narrow this back in since there's a lot of rounds and holes that comprise that length. Just in the last 6 months, who has played that length of par 4 the best? The 400 to 450. Top 10: Adam Scott, Scott Stallings, Seamus Power, Tyler Duncan, and Roger Sloan are the top 5. The bottom half of the top 10 being Sung Kang, Hank Lebioda, Alex Noren, Scott Gutschewski, so that's a Korn Ferry Tour guy we'll have to look at, and Russell Henley. So some pretty good stuff there. Power has been playing well, minus this past week at Houston. Sloan, I think did Sloan? Yeah. Wait, did he make the cut this past week? I don't remember. We'll have to check that in the data dive. I know Adam Scott made the cut. He had a pretty bad Sunday. Lebioda actually top 15'd the Houston. Russell Henley played well, obviously. So, Scott Gutschewski. Interesting. Actually, I'm going to switch over to Korn Ferry stats here. Korn Ferry. Par 4s, 400 to 450. Of the players in the field, Svensson, Jaeger, Creel, Sig, Callum Tarrant, Mito, Hayden Buckley, Taylor Moore, Dylan Wu, and John Hunt. Gutschewski's actually 11th on just Korn Ferry. Interesting. So why is he so high on the PGA Tour 400 to 450s? Barbasol doesn't seem like he played great. Bermuda, he played okay, but we don't have that data. Sanderson Farms missed the cut. Fortinet was okay. Interesting stuff here. Maybe there's something hidden with Gutschewski. I'm sure I'm butchering that to hell, but sorry. Let's take a look at the Bermuda. Do we have that stats? Yes, we do. So what was going on with Gutschewski here? Okay. So he was fairly high at the Bermuda at that range. Interesting. Let's go back and check the Fortinet, where he also made the cut. Par 4. 400 to 450. Gutschewski. Now I'm going to have to type it. That's really going to get butchered. There we go. And didn't play him best. Interesting. So something here is popping for Gutschewski on those length of par 5s. Or, excuse me, on the length of those par 4s. Especially since he wasn't one of the top ones on the Korn Ferry Tour. So that's something I'll definitely be digging into tomorrow for you all. See if I have some answers. And of course, as always, reach out to me on social media if you're interested. If you're wanting to get a kind of a look and see during the day what I'm looking at. And that's something that I will be opening up to my listeners, to my subscribers. This will be part of the bonus content that I'll have extra videos and such for those who subscribe to the channel and such. I'll be giving you pretty much kind of an insider access to exactly what I look through, my process as I go through the week and trying to figure out who I want to bet and who I want to play in DFS. So You're definitely not going to want to miss out on that info there. So that is a fairly quick look at the RSM Classic this week at Simon's Island, Georgia. I guess we can do one more here. Let's look at, let's do short courses again. Let's do short courses in the last 6 months. What do we got? 22 rounds? Yeah, that's enough. Short courses. Strokes gained total. Cameron Smith, Danny Lee, Harris English, Adam Scott, and Alex Smalley are your top 5. Munoz, Power, Grace, Norn, and Matt Wallace round out your top 10. Hey, how you doing, PY? You doing all right? Thanks for tuning in, man. Did you have a good week at the Houston betting or DFS wise? I sure didn't. It was brutal for me. It was pretty bad. And I can't say pretty bad. I had a small bet that hit, but it didn't cover the losses. What was most frustrating for me in the DFS was that I went light, did not do well. Yeah, I didn't go light. I generally play the same contests, same amount, and all that stuff. I hit the top 20 on Luke List, so that paid a little bit, helped mitigate the losses on the outright betting side. But DFS, I actually generated a lineup for one of the contests that would have top 25'd, and I didn't play it, which is frustrating because I generate a whole lot of lineups, and then I kind of go through it and decide how much exposure I want to each player and stuff. And I actually generated a lineup that would have won quite a bit and didn't play it, and now I'm kicking my own ass. But them's the breaks. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. I'm getting ready to wrap up the show, but make sure you subscribe and reach out to me in the email in the description. Like I said, this week starts the full-time career, full-time job that I do this now that I don't have a 9 to 5. So I'll be doing a lot more content. I'll be sending out my tournament fact sheets, best bets, top values and such. So make sure you reach out to me there. That way you're added to the distribution list for all that info. But again, thanks guys for tuning in. I hope your all's weekend at the Houston went well, or at least better than mine. That's going to wrap it up for the RSM Initial Research Show. For all the bets that you made at the Houston, for all the bets that you're initially thinking about at the RSM, and until I see you tomorrow night for the Data Dive Show, may all your bets be profitable.